Yo. If you're not familiar with these iceberg tier lists that have been making the rounds on YouTube lately, then you must really be loving that living under a rock lifestyle, because you have done an excellent job avoiding a trend that really has caught most people's attention. But for those of you who really don't know what it is, basically it's a chart with the most well-known stuff about a given topic being at the top of the iceberg, the tip as it were, and the lesser known, obscure, disturbing stuff depending on the iceberg is further down until you reach the very bottom of the iceberg, in which usually it's the most obscure, most creepy, etc. So, with all that being said, I may be a little bit late to the party, but I brought the beer with this one, boys, because today we're going to be exploring an iceberg chart that I'm happy to say is one of the best ones out there. The YouTube Content Iceberg made by Reddit user Cerulean58. There are a few YouTube content related icebergs out there floating around. Some of them pretty good, but none of them are as expansive and reach into as many obscure, interesting, and dark corners of the website as this one does. In sheer scope alone, this iceberg is truly in a league all of its own. I mean, the one that I'm currently reading off of for this video is actually the third variation of the same tier list, because the creator keeps adding on to it because they're just so damn determined to make this the penultimate YouTube related iceberg. Originally I was going to cover this whole iceberg in one big solid video, but as I kept digging deeper and writing and researching over the last couple weeks, I found that the script for such a video was growing upwards to 4 to 6 hours in length. And while I'm not at all opposed to making a video that thick and juicy for you all, I decided the best way to, not go fucking crazy is to break this iceberg down tier by tier, block by block, 1 to 2 tiers per video until we're all done. It's something to snack on. And then when you're all nice and comfy cozy watching a YouTube video, I want you to then get your ass up, put some fucking flippers and scuba gear on, and take my hand, bitch, cause you and me, we're taking a dive. So this first tier focuses on a lot of meta YouTube stuff. Things the average everyday YouTuber user or creator is bound to hear come up at least once or twice, as well as important moments or changes to the platform and some of the most famous controversies that spread well beyond the scope of just the website. Me at the Zoo. An appropriate way to start. This was the first video ever uploaded to YouTube back on April 23rd of 2005. And features YouTube co-creator Jod Carmen in front of a bunch of elephants at the San Diego Zoo for 18 seconds.
Alright, so here we are in front of the elephants. Cool thing about these guys is that they have really long fronts, and that's cool. And that's pretty much all there is to say.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for now. PewDiePie N-word/racism controversy. PewDiePie, the most popular YouTuber on the platform, said the N-word.
What a fucking...
What did you say?
Most people are aware of this by now. He said it in a heated moment while streaming a video game. This was quite the controversy at the time, and it sent shockwaves all around YouTube and beyond, with many claiming that the most subscribed to individual on the platform was a racist and a Nazi, and what that meant to YouTube as a community as a whole, etc. Well, PewDiePie is not a racist and he's not a Nazi, but he did fuck up and say a pretty bad word publicly. He, however, has since apologized and moved on past this controversy at this point. PewDiePie versus T-Series. Speaking of PewDiePie, if you are somehow not aware of the huge event slash war slash moment that happened here on YouTube when T-Series, an Indian company uploading Bollywood clips and the like, was going to overtake PewDiePie in subscription numbers, I'm guessing you just don't watch that much YouTube. At the time, literally it felt like almost every YouTuber had something to say about this whole thing. And in fact, PewDiePie and most of the rest of the internet all kind of decided to fight back, even if it was just for the lulz of the situation. Though many did see it as a kind of serious problem that this would be the death of an era for a company to finally have more subscribers than an individual on YouTube. This went on for quite some time, PewDiePie even famously making a diss track to T-Series titled Bitch Lasagna. But eventually T-Series did win in the end. PewDiePie even made a congratulatory track towards T-Series afterward. But it was still quite a fight, with a lot of YouTubers coming together in a rare moment of camaraderie. YouTube Easter eggs. This relates to anytime YouTube has hit an Easter egg on the platform, such as for a while if you looked up the Doge meme in the search bar, you would see a bunch of video titles multicolored and in Comic Sans to match said meme format. There's also videos from Adult Swim such as Too Many Cooks that have their own special font for the video. There also used to be one where if you typed in "Beam me up Scotty," all of the search results would be beamed up. But unfortunately, most of these Easter eggs have since been taken down and you can no longer use almost any of them. The only ones that really remain are the title specific stuff. Again, like the Too Many Cooks. Another one is the "Why do videos stop at 301 views" video, which forever is at 301 views. YouTube April Fool's jokes. In a similar vein to the last one, this one's all about the special April Fool's Day jokes YouTube has done over the years. Like the time they rickrolled the whole site by having Rick Astley's video play on the front page. Or the time they offer viewers a new viewing experience, which just flipped the videos upside down. Stuff like that. YouTube Kids. YouTube Kids is a kid-friendly version of YouTube via an app so parents can have YouTube babysit their kids. It's mostly harmless.
Liar!
Okay, no, it's actually not at all harmless. It's harmless for now, but trust me, as we go further down this iceberg, this one's gonna have several more encores. The YouTube Adpocalypses. Throughout the years, there have been events that has had YouTube have its advertisers pull out for a brief bit of time. Usually the virtue signal that they don't like what PewDiePie or the toxic community of YouTube is up to or something like that, but they always go right back on in a couple months later. This has happened multiple times for multiple different reasons, all stemming from the first major adpocalypse, which can be traced all the way back to August 2016, after YouTube shifted their focus towards family-friendly content, affecting many channels with adult audiences and those who have edgier or more mature content generally. YouTubers like Philip DeFranco, Levius Here, and Filthy Frank, all popular and quite influential YouTubers at that time, being affected by this change. There are these dudes that you could get them to write down anything for like $5. There's a lot of those types of things on Fiverr you can find, people just trying to make a quick buck, so you pay them $5 and then they'll say whatever you want. So PewDiePie decided to do some edgy things to see if they would say it, and well, I mean, turns out he paid them and so they said it. All the same though, joke or no, YouTube took it very seriously when the UK government, Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, Johnson & Johnson, an infamous Adpocalypse event happened back in February 18th of 2019 when YouTuber Matt What Is It posted a video showing what he referred to as a softcore really fit ring on the site, placing the blame on YouTube's algorithm squarely, and prompted his audience in a call to action to report this all to the companies that advertise on YouTube, specifically so that they would stop giving money to YouTube. YouTuber Implement did an amazing video on this particular rabbit hole that I'll link down below, but TLDR, this whole event smelled of bullcrap and only really screwed over content creators at the end of the day, yet again. There are many other examples and evolutions to this whole adpocalypse thing, some smaller, some bigger. Another example being like restricting the partner program to channels with only more than 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours per year, YouTube advertisements being more likely to go to television-based channels like late night shows rather than user-generated original content. Even if both of them are doing basically the same exact thing, there is a general favoritism towards old media versus new, established stuff versus users. All for the sake of YouTube being more commercially viable, more politically correct, and less about actual users, YouTubers, and more of a hub for random clips from shit. The latest round of YouTube Adpocalypse saw several conservative channels such as Black Pigeon Speaks, The Golden One, Steven Crowder, and several other political channels having their monetization banned completely, thus not only depriving them of the income they would have gotten from those videos, but also effectively shadow banning their content from the YouTube algorithm. This all started because on May 24th, 2019, Vox reporter Carlos Maza contacted YouTube demanding that they demonetize and stop, quote, hate speech on the platform after conservative comedian and online talk show host Steven Crowder repeatedly made jokes at Maza's expense. Many conservatives accuse YouTube as being anti-conservative in bias, while other YouTubers such as Sticks and Hammer 666 and Ben Shapiro believed it was corporations like Vox wanting to stamp out competition. Many would argue that YouTube Adpocalypse events only really seem to limit one's creativity and freedom of speech on the platform, and generally never really affect YouTube as a company. It never really affects the advertisers in any meaningful way. It only really ever seems to affect the creators that are uploading content to the platform. And usually these events start off of like one person saying something, whether it's a joke or even a serious accusation. One person has the ability to completely light the entire platform on fire and change their entire policy plan. A scary thought indeed, but a reality check all the same. YouTube Rewind dislike ratio. Every year, YouTube creates a video titled YouTube Rewind that's supposed to commemorate the YouTube community as a whole, but is usually pretty fucking awful and just generally not very representative of the actual YouTube community. Cause if you couldn't tell, YouTube's not actually a real big fan of the total community. In 2018, the YouTube Rewind was so full of virtue signaling and fart huffing that the collective community of YouTube decided to make it the most disliked video ever uploaded on the platform. It was so universally hated that YouTube decided to try something much lower key in 2019 and didn't even do anything in 2020. Though, for other obvious reasons, a big community collab was unlikely to happen in 2020 anyway. YouTube algorithm. Everything on YouTube is ran through a complex algorithm that can detect content that might be inappropriate for current day YouTube, or if said video has copyrighted material in it, etc. It's an algorithm that often fails at its job consistently, like it was being run by a Saturday morning cartoon villain, yet it is also so complex that no one seems to have a firm grasp of how it actually works. Just good guesses. It's also very susceptible to changing on a dime, something that YouTube themselves hardly ever give information about beyond vague ideas and details. Yet you'll see YouTuber after YouTuber trying to stab the white whale that is the YouTube algorithm all the time, even just for a split second for that sweet ad revenue and people being able to actually find and watch their videos for once. You know, like making a video on a trendy topic like icebergs or something. Logan Paul's Forest video. popular YouTuber and general internet personality Logan Paul made a vlog in which he travels into the infamous suicide forest named, and I'm going to try to get this correctly, Aokigahara, known for, well, being a popular spot in Japan for people to take their own lives. It's gotten so infamous, in fact, that signs of positivity and encouragement can be found throughout the forest, trying to convince those in their darkest moments that suicide isn't the answer. It's quite a problem over in Japan, and so this being such a hot spot makes it quite tragic as it is haunting. But at any rate, Logan Paul, as he was going through the suicide forest, found a dead body. Fresh, not long after having just taken their own life. So, Logan Paul, being ever the opportunist, decided to record the dead body, touch it, and then upload it onto YouTube for all his kid audience to see. You really just can't make this shit up. You of course can't find the video now due to how much controversy this caused at the time, and YouTube taking it down of course. But re-uploads on the Internet Archives are quite popular to this day. Though before warned, yes, it does actually show a dead body in the video, so if you go looking for it there, just know what you're getting into. Daddy05 Child Abuse. This one's been well documented by some other videos over the years, but to break it down, basically there is a family channel called Daddy05, at one point being called Family05, ran by Michael Christopher Martin, that centered around vlogs and playing pranks on one another, in particular the youngest child of the group. These videos showcase the parents physically and emotionally abusing their children in quote-unquote prank videos, which of course many found to be more than disturbing. I won't go into an insane amount of detail here, but needless to say, these videos are highly disturbing. The parents are clearly egging on their children to hurt one another, screaming at their children at the point of them crying hysterically, something which also hinted at an even more abusive life off the camera. So when YouTuber Philip DeFranco, as well as kind of the collective of the YouTube community, found out about this channel, people were pretty upset by what they saw, to say the least, with many reporting the channel and the videos as well as contacting authorities. And while I could also go into quite a lot of detail about all that, the TLDR is that children Emma and Cody were eventually removed from Mike and his wife Heather's custody and returned to their biological mother, as well as YouTube themselves terminating their channel as well as their second channel, which they tried to do shortly after. If you want to know more about this unfortunate tale, I'd recommend watching one of the many videos covering it in much more detail than I'm going to here. But needless to say, Daddy05 was a scary look at what exposing and using children for internet fame and money can look like. And unfortunately, this is not the last time you'll be hearing me say that on this Iceberg video series. Comment bots. This one's pretty self-explanatory. YouTube is full of comment bots, be they random accounts spamming shit, strange, catfish, oddly erotic ones, and ones that even mean to do harm to other YouTube channels. We'll have a more specific example of that latter later on in the iceberg, but needless to say, comment bots are everywhere. Even for someone whose channel is as small as mine, I have gotten comment bots before. Scare PewDiePie Season 2. Scare PewDiePie was a YouTube Red series, now called YouTube Premium, produced by Maker Studios, now Disney Digital Network, and Skybound Entertainment that premiered on February 10th of 2016. The series was one of the first few bits of TV-like content YouTube was trying their hand at the time. And the show itself focused on PewDiePie exploring sets designed and based around horror video games that he had played on his YouTube channel before. 10 episodes were produced and filmed in Los Angeles, California during September 2015, and a second season titled Scare PewDiePie Multiplayer was set to be released on March 9th of 2017. However, this second season would never come out, despite it being fully finished. Quote, "We've decided to cancel the release of Scare PewDiePie Season 2, and we'll be removing PewDiePie's channel from the Google Preferred," as per quoted by a spokesperson in a TechCrunch interview. Scare PewDiePie Season 2 never came out due to the several controversies that PewDiePie himself had gotten himself into at the time, which we've already covered thus far. So as far as we know, Scare PewDiePie Season 2 is all but lost media now. Google Plus. Google Plus was Google's failed attempt at creating a social networking platform. No one used the thing, despite Google at the time constantly trying to shove it down everyone's throats, including on YouTube. In 2013, YouTube announced that users would be required to use Google Plus accounts in order to leave comments on any given video on YouTube. Furthermore, comments posted on a YouTube video would, by default, also be posted on their Google Plus profile, unless the option was manually unchecked. This was their attempt at getting people to naturally use Google Plus more, since it would be so well integrated with YouTube, an already very popular platform. This, however, backfired and actually soured everyone to Google Plus, with them now needing to have it in order to engage with YouTube in any meaningful way. I'll never forget the days when having to own a Google Plus account was just a necessary evil if you wanted to do something as simple as comment or just upload YouTube videos. Google Plus was a multi-million-dollar mistake that would later be shut down in 2019 due to so few people actually using it, as well as a few other reasons related to data leakage. All the same, people will remember the dark age that was the Google Plus era. May its evil never return. Copyright abuse. You probably have heard this a million times over by now, as most YouTubers have talked about it in some capacity, but basically, you should probably know, copyright holders claim videos that either use clips from their copyrighted material, whether it's fair use or not, leading to a back and forth between the creator, the copyright holder, YouTube, the algorithm, and it's just a big fucking mess that for a long time usually always gives the copyright holder excessive amount of power while the creator is just kind of left in the cold hoping that things will turn out. Or there's also some cases where people falsely copyright claim people's videos to try to get their ad revenue, something which they can do mostly without much repercussion, which is probably why they do it. While on the creator's side, they are being royally fucked every single day that video's monetization is going to someone else who owns nothing in said video and had no part in its creation. It's just literally stealing money at that point. I think you get my point, but if you don't, I don't know, just watch several YouTubers' videos on it. There's lots of good ones out there. Emplemon has made a good video about it, and not only him, but some other people have made videos about how to directly fight back, even how to use some of the copyright holders or false copyright holders' own weapons against them. And finally, for this tier is government bans. So this one's a topic that is going to come up in some capacity later on in the iceberg, but for a more general idea, yeah, governments from several countries at this point have banned YouTube outright as a platform, or sometimes certain YouTube content and creators as well. Countries like China, excluding Hong Kong and Macau, have completely banned YouTube, as well as countries like Iran, North Korea, and Syria, blocking all access to it. Though it should be noted that in China, pretty much everyone who doesn't want to live under the communist bubble is going to constantly pirate their content. That's why they're, if they want to play video games, they're probably going to pirate it. And so, because of that reason, YouTube is actually statistically the top 11th most used website in China, despite it being blocked. On the other hand, there are countries like Germany, Pakistan, Russia, Turkey, and Venezuela, among others, with a storied past of banning/blocking access to certain videos and forms of content on the platform before. It's usually all for the sake of censorship of some kind. We finally made it to the tip of the iceberg, and that only took like, what, a half an hour? This tier is finally getting into more of the content of YouTube, covering some of the most famous YouTube series, AVGNs, famous creepy videos, etc. So lads and lasses, let's get exploring. Don't hug me, I'm scared. If you're at all familiar with horror content on YouTube, then you have more than likely heard about this series, maybe even watched it, or at the very least, I hazard the guess you've at least seen its first episode. But if for some reason you haven't, all you gotta really know is it's a creepy web series involving puppets and it's very popular. It plays itself off as a children's Sesame Street type show about education, before eventually delving into dark themes of existential dread and disturbing visuals, as well as complex philosophical ideas in each of its 6 episodes. The first video of the series has over 60 million views, and I remember at the time of its release, back in July of 2011, it really got around. The first episode is as perfectly put by the Don't Hug Me I'm Scared wiki page, quote, "How the media discourages creativity and promotes rigid conformity to society's expectations. Despite presenting itself as a promoter of change, diversity, and forward thinking and innovation, it paradoxically pushes only its narrow idea of originality." Unquote. Episode 2 is about time as an idea, as a concept, and how the media keeps our brains busy with the superficial aspects of time, not the overarching larger ideas of time and the infinity of that, but also the possibility of how it is all simply a construct created by human minds, a point of perception. Episode 3 is hard to put one single interpretation to it, as the episode seems to be juggling everything from marriage to polygamy to abortion, all while on the other hand it also deals with themes of religion, the brainwashing of cults, hetero versus homosexuality, and yeah, this one's just really dense with different ideas and ways of looking at it. But at its core, it does seem to be asking what love really is and if it even has a true meaning. And if such a meaning does exist, how the idea of love is warped through different parties for insidious purposes. Episode 4 deals with technology, specifically its role in our current day society, and how there is, in a Jungian sense, a digital you, persona, shadow, etc., and that the real you controls through every action done through the internet. There's also references to how social media is constantly trying to get more information on individuals to place them into collective boxes, and how when you break down the internet, there's only 3 things to do on it: graphs, digital style, and dancing. Graphs represent the educational side, the facts, the Wikipedias, basically everything to do with that, the learning aspect of the internet. Digital style is creating our persona on the internet, be it through social media or creation, or simply finding things that we identify with ourselves, as well as just generally presenting ourselves differently online. It's our digital style, I guess you could say. Then finally, digital dancing represents entertainment. It represents watching YouTube, represents playing video games, trolling even, which you could also consider as part of digital style. Basically, it's a pretty clever way of breaking down the internet to its fundamentals, I guess you could say. Now, as for the last 2 episodes, they're perhaps best left for you to go watch them yourself if you haven't already, as I really don't think I could really do them any sort of justice. Unlike these other 4, which seem to have a basic narrative and theme, these ones kind of connect with the overarching plot that is connected through all the videos, and kind of getting a payoff to that, which I'm not going to sit here and try to explain that whole story. That would just take too long. But if you've not watched them and any of this sounds interesting, I'd recommend watching all 6 of the videos. It's a pretty quick watch and a pretty fun one at that. Christian. I could never even begin to start talking about the internet legend that is Christian. Chris, or Christine, is the most documented human on Earth at this point, with wikis dedicated to him, several video essays, and even an ongoing, already 50-part documentary by YouTuber Gino Samuel 12.1. Each one of those videos in that 50-part documentary series is still not done, being around 40 minutes to an hour in length each. So all I'll say is, if you're interested in learning more about who this is
war. your wares and bring yourselves unto me. I got a fish! Would you like to make a wish?
Ain't no stains on the fiddle. No stains on the fiddle like this.
Good viewers. Now, for those who dare continue to mislabel me as dang, gay, homosexual, or bisexual, I'm straight. I am straight. Mr. Thomas, you are hereby granted a Merry Christmas from your Uncle Gubsy. Uncle Gubsy says, Merry Christmas, Tom. This is dead serious. The inside and outside tour I did a few months ago of my house. Everyone on the internet, my mother and my father are angry at me. They're blaming me. It's my fault. I admit it's my fault. I want everything about my house off the internet. I'll send in detectives. I'll send in police. I'll send in everything in my power to get it off the internet.
Listen to me.
Yes.
Shut that goddamn thing off.
Then go down the rabbit hole now if you haven't already. Trust me, you won't regret it. I would go into more detail, but at this point it would be akin to summarizing the contents of the Bible, Homer's Odyssey, and Lord of the Rings in a single paragraph. It just doesn't do any of them justice. Salad Fingers. This one's an OG classic as far as internet horror animation is concerned. Salad Fingers is an animated web series by horror content creator David Firth. It follows the titular Salad Fingers character in his many adventures and daily life in this hellscape apocalypse place of sorts. The series is well known for not only its disturbing visuals, but also its unnerving tone, melancholy music that drones through your ears like echoes in a deep, dark cave. The series has been going on since 2004, before the age of YouTube actually, and the 11 episodes in total have released in the span of that time. If you haven't watched Salad Fingers before, I highly recommend it. Preferably late at night all alone. It's not shit your pants scary by any means, but it's a series that really pulls you into its bleak yet oddly serene at times atmosphere. Something that manages to make every episode and every quote from the show stick in my brain. By marathon's end, it might leave you asking questions about its core message or story it presented as well. WebDriver Torso. WebDriver Torso is a YouTube channel that is uploading videos like this. At a daily, even at times hourly rate. For some bit of time, this channel had people absolutely puzzled as to what it could mean. Some people even believing it was some extremely weird ARG. In the end though, WebDriver Torso turned out to be owned by Google and is an automated performance testing account for YouTube, testing video quality on the website. They are pretty weird and have a strongly eerie vibe, I won't lie, but there's not much more to it than that. I feel fantastic. So this one's a horror classic on YouTube, bolstering over 25 million views by this point, and uploaded all the way back in 2009. It features an uncanny looking android of sorts, singing with odd music playing in the background. Now the video is honestly scary in its own right. I remember this video always being put somewhere near the start of those weird side of YouTube video playlists that I would watch late at night. And yeah, it does have an aura that just doesn't feel right. Something about the way the robot moves, the cinematography, it just kickstarts my fight or flight mode for whatever reason. However, what made this video more legendary beyond just the disturbing visuals is actually the long description it holds, which reads as follows. Quote, in ancient Greek mythology, Pygmalion was a highly accomplished Cypriot sculptor. Though skilled at imitating the human form and well acquainted with its subtleties, he became disgusted by them when he witnessed the propoetides prostituting themselves. These women were punished by Venus for their lack of worship with a coarseness of skin and a crudeness of nature, and were forced into prostitution. Seeing this, Pygmalion, the sculptor, was repelled and could no longer appreciate women. Seemingly alone, Pygmalion sought to create for himself a perfect, pure, unsullied companion. He used his particular skills to this end. He created a statue bride. What you are about to watch is a mysterious video. Its origin is attributed variously, and almost certainly spuriously, to various abstract artists and surrealists. The truth is that what we are seeing, and what we perceive to be strange and disturbing, is actually beauty to its creator. Perhaps what we are viewing is the work of a modern Pygmalion. To him, her toneless voice, the paleness of her skin, and the comparative vibrancy of her lips may indeed be the very embodiment of a perfect woman. Consider the mindscape of the creator, in whose mind does this appear beautiful, in whose mind is this pure, near worshipful. Are we missing out on his perspective? Who are we to be afraid or to judge him? He may well love her fully, perhaps more fully than any of us could ever hope to be loved. In the mind of her creator, she is a near goddess, the perfect representation of not just femininity, but the peak of human potential, a perfectly satisfactory being. How does that kind of unconditional love feel? Well, how does she feel? Fantastic. Unquote. This description carried with it a whole slew of theories and people getting freaked out even more by the video. One of the freakiest theories that came kind of out of nowhere was that the man behind these videos was a murderer, and that these robots were wearing the clothes of his victims. And the random shots of the field in the middle of nowhere during the video are alluding to where he hid the victims' remains. Pretty creepy, but like most creepy stuff online, it's not at all that complicated. It was just an Android project made by some dude. It's most likely accidentally creepy. There's a few videos on YouTube that go into more detail if you're interested in learning more about this little internet mystery, but yeah, that's really all there is to it. Blink Room Soup. This one was shared by pretty much every YouTube channel that covers spooky stuff online, but in the odd chance you haven't seen the video yet, it's pretty disturbing. And for a while, people were wondering if it was real, with rumors of it being a dark web video that surfaced on YouTube, spreading all around for some time. A story about the video being someone who was really abducted by two masked men was disturbing already on its face, especially when you add on the extra little story people sometimes added in that the man's wife was also abducted, killed, chopped up, and then cooked into the very soup the man is forced to eat. The truth is, these two costumes were made by Raymond Percy for his act, as well as the videos that went by Ray Ray TV. According to Raymond, when he was doing a performance at the Sunset Club, someone broke into his vehicle and stole some of the spare Ray Ray suits, and then he received that video through his email a while later with no explanation for it. But let's just be honest, that's just simply not true, even if people did try to look into it. It's all fake. It was all clearly staged by Raymond himself. I mean, and kudos to him. It's a pretty fucking creepy video, and even if you can hear someone briefly laughing in the background, You probably aren't going to notice that until I just mentioned it and ruined it for you. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. Username 666/Nana825763. Username 666 is one of the best well-known creepy videos on YouTube, a true classic in my eyes. It showcases a video of someone's screen as they ritualistically keep typing in the search term 666 on the YouTube search bar, which according to the urban legend, will eventually give you access to this hellscape like YouTube, full of highly disturbing content, strange visuals, and seemingly taking over your computer. It's great stuff and visually is fucking striking as hell. Super disturbing. Which makes sense because the uploader of this famous video, Nana825763, has uploaded many videos throughout the years on her channel that are either highly disturbing or fascinating in subject matter. If you have never seen her channel, I'd highly recommend you go give it a watch. They're as creative as they come when it comes to unnerving, deep, dark, atmospheric videos, especially when watched at night. Hour-long advertisements. In case you never knew that such a thing exists, there are hour-long advertisements sometimes showcased on YouTube that can randomly appear at the start of YouTube videos like any other ad. Most of them you can still skip after 5 seconds or so, but there are some that have showcased examples in which they've been given an hour-long advertisement that's actually not skippable, forcing them to get off the video and come back. It's pretty weird, but there isn't much more to it than that. Unblocked Movies. Have you guys ever tried to find a movie for free on YouTube to watch? If you have, then you've no doubt run across movies that are either nowhere to be found due to copyright issues, the movie being hoisted up in one of the corners of the screen with a bunch of effects and shit that just frankly isn't really worth watching the video at that point, or maybe a link to some shady ass website in the description of the video, while the video itself, despite having the exact runtime of said movie, is just a fucking JPEG or ad for the website below. Well, there are some movies that are actually unblocked and easily available to watch on YouTube as well. So go check them out. One such example, it's just like a whatever thing, is if you've never watched the 80s cult classic Rock and Rule, it's on YouTube. Go watch it. That's Dylan the Night Owl. Free YouTube movie recommendation. Local 58. Local 58 is a web series that's acting as a local broadcast station that seems to have a sinister intention of manipulating, hypnotizing, brainwashing the viewer. It's a trip worth experience for yourself if you haven't already, as it's more than just your average, everyday internet horror web series. This web series was created by writer and cartoonist Chris Straub, who is also well known for creating one of the best and most famous creepypastas ever written, Candle Cove. Something about Chris's work always seems to connect with people on some sort of deeper level than your normal creepy content on the internet. perhaps it's because it has something deeper to say, some kind of commentary under the cloak of creepy content that makes it all a package that is very recommendable and very fun to experience. YouTuber Nexpo has several great videos about Local 58 on his channel, so I'd recommend you give him a watch if you want to have a deeper dive into the web series. Poppy. Poppy, real name being Mariah Rose Piera, is kind of multiple rabbit holes leading to multiple rabbit holes. She's a YouTuber slash singer slash general celebrity at this point that's well known for her deadpan, soft, and hypnotic voice.
I'm Poppy. 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 I am Poppy. I'm Poppy. I'm Poppy. It's that time of year again. A time where we all give thanks. It's Thanksgiving. What are you thankful for this year? I'm thankful for... I'm thankful for...
About 5 years ago, she really made the rounds here on YouTube thanks to her strange videos that seemed to be of very high quality while at the same time being quite simple. They had an air of eeriness to them and a bit of commentary that wasn't quite clear as well.
Do you ever think about God? It's really weird.
However, since then, she's gone beyond being some weird character on a weird YouTube channel at this point. I would now classify her as kind of a super popular mainstream figure at this point. Well known for her being different and creepy, sure, but well known nonetheless. The visuals of her videos, and indeed I guess music videos and style in general, as described by their producer Titanic St. Clair or Corey Mixter, who seems to be kind of the figurehead behind the Poppy persona as far as I can understand, is quoted saying, "A combination of Andy Warhol pop accessibility, David Lynch's creepiness, and Tim Burton's zany comedic tone," unquote. Which does seem to fit. It's also a lot of frankly nonsensical elements all kind of coming together that is unique, but it's hard to tell if it's just being weird and creepy for the sake of being weird and creepy, or if there is a deeper commentary that the music and or videos mean to display. If I were to guess, I would say that perhaps these videos, ironically, kind of have a similar effect to Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, and that they are a simple format that cover existential and philosophical ideas with a creepy yet tongue-in-cheek manner that might have the viewer ruminate upon the weird shit they just saw and share it with others. Removed features. Over the years, YouTube has added many new features to the platform, as well as taken away just as many, with a few standouts being annotations, which used to be a great way for adding a quick note about something you got wrong in the video, or linking to an update video about a certain topic, or whatever you wanted really. Obviously, some of them were taken out to be replaced, such as YouTube's Studios change, and the star rating changing to a thumbs up and thumbs down rating. But there's also other features that feel kind of sad to be gone, such as custom channel layouts. You could have GIFs and all sorts of stuff playing whenever people went to your channel to give it its own unique touch. I could imagine a lot of YouTube channels utilizing this super well, integrating it with their brand or having some kind of funny meme associated with it. There's just so many possibilities, and yet they decided to make it all uniform instead. Video responses are one of those features that was taken away as YouTube kind of geared away from being a social media platform and into a creation platform, where basically the idea was, instead of commenting, you could actually leave a video response to someone and it would link up along with the other many video responses to your single video they could have. They'd usually be easily available right there if you wanted to see them. This one could have been interesting, as it would have made growing on YouTube faster, as well as collab videos much more streamlined had they kept improving upon it. I'm sure like every other feature it would have been used and abused, but there is kind of a novelty to seeing a video and then right after being able to see people's responses to it. That's kind of a fun idea. It's something I feel like a lot of people do anyway on YouTube. They're just not linked up together, is all. Oh, and we must never forget the days before COPPA, back when I was able to read the comments down below cartoons and other animated features on YouTube. I miss reading people's random thoughts on obscure animated films, many of which were clearly not made for children, but are still considered children things under the COPPA thing all the same. Etika S. I'm going to tread this one very lightly, as I'm sure most of you are well aware of this event by this point, and if not, all you need to know is Etika, real name Desmond Daniel Amafo, was a popular reaction-based YouTuber and streamer who was best known for his over-the-top reactions, notably to Nintendo Direct presentations. Etika has some demons. In the last several months of his life, he showcased this, with signs of mental illness and issues being showcased. This would eventually lead to Etika taking his own life after several videos basically saying he was going to do so. Videos which I think most of his fans and people didn't take seriously, because to be fair, a lot of people online do stuff like that for attention, so sometimes it can be difficult to tell who is telling the truth, who's being really deeply honest, and who is being deeply deceitful. All the same, Etika was a wake-up call for many, and is still very much mourned and missed by his many fans. Elsa Gate. So this is it. This is perhaps one of the deepest rabbit holes you can go down as far as YouTube is concerned. The basic idea of Elsa Gate was first brought about in 2017 when people started discovering an entire wormhole of strangely / crudely animated videos, people in cosplay, and toy review related channels, all targeted towards kids specifically, that would feature characters like Elsa and Spider-Man. The amount of these videos that existed, as well as the amount of channels uploading daily content, was already strange enough. But when one looks closer into the topic, you find that many of the videos feature strange fetishes, overt sexual tones, gore, and even downright creepy content from time to time, all being marketed off of kids watching them through the autoplay feature on YouTube, and yes, back in the day, YouTube Kids. These channels were raking in millions of views per video and were seriously making a ton of money because of it. And so Elsa Gate kind of centered around this strange community of channels and trying to discover the who, what, when, where, and why of them. While the most agreed upon theory is that all these channels simply exist to make money off of children viewing them because children are the biggest market on YouTube, the reason for the weird and creepy content within them, however, is kind of harder to know. Some theorize that these channels do it because, as fucked up as it is, this stuff started attracting children. Kids like weird, gross stuff sometimes. So perhaps this is why the content evolved into such a manner. However, some believe a more insidious reason is at play here, that these videos are not only making money, but also desensitizing children to these weird and creepy topics, and in some ways normalizing all of this behavior, in a sense, grooming the children. This is just a theory, of course, but either way, if you're interested in learning more about it, I'd recommend you go to the Elsa Gate Reddit page, or looking up some of the videos documenting it in more detail. You might be under the assumption that Elsa Gate ended when YouTube took actions to delete hundreds of these channels that were involved in the ring. However, while perhaps not quite as prevalent, these sorts of channels still very much exist, although many of them have moved past using Spider-Man and Elsa characters and onto a far more clever way of doing it. video game characters, notably those from Minecraft. There even seems to be a certain new brand of videos called Monster School videos, which if you happen to look it up, you will find a bunch of videos targeted towards kids with highly suggestive thumbnails. I mean, some of these Minecraft characters are just plain taking it up the ass here in some of these thumbnails, so it's pretty unsettling. YouTube headquarters shooting. On April 3rd, 2018, around 12:46 p.m., a shooting occurred at the headquarters of the video sharing website YouTube in San Bruno, California. The shooter was identified as a 38-year-old Nazim Najif Agdam, I believe is how you pronounce that, who entered through an exterior parking garage, approached an outdoor patio, and opened fire with a Smith & Wesson 9mm semi-automatic pistol. Nazim wounded 3 people, one of them critically, before killing herself. Nazim was a vegan animal rights activist who was clearly mentally unstable. Her motive for the shooting was due to her believing that YouTube was suppressing her videos because she spoke the truth or something stupid like that. There isn't much else to this story besides how lucky it was that everyone she injured thankfully lived through the events, besides herself of course. The Projared Controversy. So I originally wrote out a big, long, like 3-page thing for this one, explaining all the events and details, but ultimately I'm just gonna go simple with this one and just say Projared and his wife had problems, cheating was involved, he says something, she says something else, ultimately doesn't fucking matter. What does matter is during this whole event between the arguments on Twitter between the two, several people came out of the closet basically saying that Projared had been a fucking pervert with them, the 2 most worrying of these cases being 2 minors. When the collective internet learned about all this, and Projared hadn't said anything and would not say anything until 4 months later, basically they made him a public pariah, completely destroying any reputation that he had left hearing both sides of the story. As when Projared did come out public cases, like he was kind of a perv and him and his wife definitely had issues that I don't think needed to be shared on social media. The main thing I wanted to know, and I'm sure most other people wanted to know, is if he was a groomer / pedophile, which he completely disproved. He proved that both of these supposed victims had in fact lied about the whole situation just for the sake of pouring more oil onto an already burning fire. Why they did that? I don't know. Maybe they just like to ruin people's lives, which is almost what they did. Maybe it was for the Twitter clout. Or maybe it's because there's always a reason to lie, no matter how short-term the benefits are. But ultimately, the Projared controversy led to a lot of people having to rethink how they approach these situations, and rightfully so. I remember that I almost gave in to temptation at the time and thought about making a video about Projared since it was a trendy topic, and while all the evidence seemed to point to him being a complete and total fucking crazy person, a monster, when in fact he was kind of a weird pervert for sure, but not as bad as everyone thought he was, and obviously not being a groomer. That's why it's important to hear both sides of these things before jumping to conclusions, which of course brings me to the CallMeCarson Controversy. You've probably heard the allegations surrounding the popular Minecraft YouTuber and streamer CallMeCarson by this point, who's been accused of sexting underage fans. These allegations date back months, having a lot of evidence to back them up, and having several of his friends backing up the claims as well. Now, as far as I know in the writing of this script, CallMeCarson has yet to give a full statement on any of this. And while the evidence here is a lot more prevalent and clear than in Projared's situation, I am staying the hell away from all this. To be clear, the evidence is pretty staggering right now. And if he did in fact do these things, then clearly he's a fucking scumbag, and yeah, that's all there is to it. To be clear though, this has happened a lot lately on YouTube. YouTubers getting caught sexting and or being inappropriate with underage fans, which I'm starting to think, you know, maybe there's a lesson to be learned from all this. Now hear me out. Maybe you guys can stop fucking doing that? Maybe don't be sexual fans of any kind, period, actually. That seems to be a good idea to me. A Suicide Mouse. A Suicide Mouse was a popular creepypasta back in the day, of which story focused on a Disney intern finding a lost episode of Mickey Mouse from the 30s, and said creepypasta came alongside a video which supposedly showcased the animation, of which is Mickey Mouse walking with a morose expression with no soundtrack until sounds begin to play in the background, described as, quote, a murmur that wasn't even a language, but more of a gurgled cry, unquote. As the volume and the intensity of the murmur increases gradually, the background begins to shift in surreal and irrational ways, bending and twisting into a nightmare landscape. And then, Mickey's expression begins to morph into an obscene sneer, and there is now full-on screaming going on in the background. And the whole thing ends with Russian text saying, "The sights of hell bring its viewers back in." The story ends with the intern pleading people to not watch it if they happen to come across the video. So yeah, typical creepypasta stuff. The actual video itself that goes along with the creepypasta doesn't really line up with the story very well. Most of them didn't back then. That's something you'll notice right off the bat. Most of these creepypasta videos that were supposed to go with the creepypasta never seem to exactly line up with the writing. However, I will say the music playing in the background here is particularly eerie. That and that one scary stock scream it uses. It's all over stuff nowadays, but back in the day, it really made this super uncomfortable to watch because I was not aware it was a stock scream sound effect. And so it really did sound like someone being violently tortured to me. Squidward's This creepypasta and the videos connected to it for a time were unescapable if you even dipped your toes into online horror content. Basically, this was a creepypasta about yet again an intern uncovering a banned/lost episode of the SpongeBob SquarePants cartoon show titled Squidward's Suicide. About, you guessed it, Squidward committing suicide. Oh, and there are images of dead kids spread throughout the lost episode. Primo choice for an edgy teen writer, I must say. Well, this inspired many people to make what is basically that lost episode, minus the, you know, dead people part, on YouTube. I'll be honest, I never found this scary. Not even a little bit. I think the part that makes this whole story creepy is probably just this one image, which, yeah, there definitely is something about this image that just makes you feel bad. You know what I mean? But that's pretty much it though. The rest of the story and all the videos with it, while very creative, I commend everyone that, you know, decided to go through the effort to do that. It just never was my thing. I just could never take it seriously. To me, it was kind of funny, to be frank. Cursed Japanese Kleenex commercial. There was an urban legend that this commercial was cursed, that everyone who made it died in some tragic way, and that you too will meet such a fate if you watch it late at midnight or 3 AM or something. It's not real. But the commercial itself definitely has an extremely eerie atmosphere. Even without the urban legend, it just emanates a malice that I can't quite put into words. All the same though, everyone who made it is just fine, it's not cursed, but still, pretty creepy commercial. Petscop. Oh boy. Yet another one of those YouTube video series people have made hours worth of content examining. I mean, hell, there's a dude on YouTube who goes by Nightmare Masterclass, who seems to have made a 16 video series analyzing every video and aspect of Petscop, several of which are at least 40 to sometimes 2 hours in length. It's for this reason why I feel like it would be nearly impossible for me to do this any kind of justice here. But in the Nightmare Masterclass's intro for the series, he says the following, which I think kind of sums up the basic idea and appeal to Petscop.
Petscop is a video series that documents the experiences of Paul, our unsuspecting protagonist, as he plays through an unknown and seemingly unfinished PS1 game, the enigmatically titled Petscop. The series takes the form of an all too familiar YouTube format, the Let's Play, in which a vlogger provides commentary as they perform a walkthrough of any given video game. As Petscop progresses, Paul's experiences become increasingly strange and disconcerting. Let's stop for a minute just to appreciate the sheer amount of effort that went into this project, because this is nothing like your average Let's Play. Petscop is a piece of art that uses the Let's Play format as a plot device in order to tell a very compelling story. And it's a carefully manicured narrative based on an entirely fabricated game. An entire video game filled with unique characters and bizarre settings was designed for this one project alone. That's true dedication.
If that sounds interesting to you at all, then I would highly recommend you go and check out the series for yourself. It's definitely one of the more interesting uses of the Let's Play format, and I mean, making an entire video game for an ARG story. It's just so fucking cool, the effort that was put in here. Plus, it's full of a ton of symbolism, secret messages, and a secret story that seems to have plenty of theories connected to it. So, I mean, I don't know, it's been a while. I haven't watched some of the newer things connected to it, so maybe there's a lot more stuff now, but it's a rabbit hole you can spend hours exploring. Fake animal rescue videos. So, this one's gonna be tricky to talk about. About 5 months ago, several channels were found to exist on YouTube that were essentially taking dogs and cats, even puppies and kittens, and hurting them in some way, such as cutting them, beating them, putting them in life-threatening situations, such as sticking them in glue traps, or putting them down pipes, or putting them in the grip of a fucking anaconda, etc., so that they can then record themselves pretending to help / save said animal to look like heroes. It's fucking disgusting. That's the basic gist of it. There are several channels like this that have had millions of people fooled into thinking that these people were actually helping animals when they were in fact abusing them. Several YouTubers have covered this controversy by now to call awareness to these channels, as some people like Nick Crowley have discovered what can only be described as a fake animal rescue abusing ring. Some of these channels have also straight up killed animals and then posted the videos, said dead animals, as if to document a tragedy they just happened to come across. When in reality, these people just fucking killed a dog for a YouTube video. And what's more is these videos are monetized, which means all those millions of views amount to tons of money. Plus, since they're monetized, it means they're going to be recommended to more people. There is an active movement to try to get these channels taken down and for YouTube to stop rewarding these channels with ad revenue. And while there has been some impact in trying to stop them, with many of these channels either going dormant and into hiding, and some of them even straight up deleting their channels or privatizing their videos, what have you, it unfortunately seems that there's been no real response from YouTube themselves as of yet. In fact, when it comes to animal abuse, it seems like that's a little bit of a gray area for them, as we will continue to see later on in this iceberg. Meaning that this type of content could potentially keep being made, people can keep making money, and more animals can keep being needlessly abused and killed for monetary gain. And that's gonna be it for this video. We got through 2 tiers this video, and we still got 6 to go. Hell, we haven't even dove under the water yet. But if you got this far, thank you for watching the video. And make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff from me. Hit the bell notification as well if you want to see it before anyone else as well. Comment down below what you thought of this iceberg thus far, and if you have any icebergs that you personally quite enjoy. Lastly, I just want to bring up the fact that I have a Patreon, and if you want to support the channel in a really big way, even just a $1 donation is extremely appreciated. The channel's going somewhere good right now, and I thank all of you who support me in any way that you can. But with that being said, until next time, this has been Dylan the Night Owl, flying off.